216-578-1007 or 800-348-1007.
The Alan Cox Show.
You guys are a bunch of morons, and I love it.
On 100.7 WMMS.
Bongo la, bongo cha cha cha, parlami del Sud America.
I got more money for you here in a few minutes. About 10 minutes from now, 4:30, I'll play that next keyword for you. That could get you $1,000 courtesy of the Buzzard bookie. I was reading about this woman. She's a 52-year-old woman. She has a PhD in education. She works for a college in Baltimore. Her given name is Marijuana Pepsi Van Dyke. Her mother gave her the name. She never, ever changed the name because her mom said, this name will take you around the world. So obviously she grew up with people making fun of her name. She doesn't drink pop. She's never smoked weed. And she said, I never plan to change my name. Her name is Marijuana Pepsi Van Dyke. Now, that is one end of the name spectrum. At the other end of the name spectrum is John Brown, who's headlining the Funny Stop tomorrow night. How's that for a setup?
Pretty good.
You ever met a Marijuana Pepsi?
I have not. No.
I think they might make that. Marijuana or a Pepsi?
I think they might make that at the dispensaries now. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
So tell people about your life, John Brown. You and I have never met. I know you and Bill are pals, and
yeah,
he said you're a funny dude, which is why I have to assume you're headlining the Funny Stop tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm one of those rare comics that actually has like a good family. Like
they're out there, a supportive, loving group of people. You mean?
Yeah, they're listening right now, I'm sure. But yeah, my mom and dad have been married like 52 years, and it doesn't make much sense at all because my mom has never touched marijuana in her entire life, and my dad grows it in the backyard. So
different strokes then for people. Yeah.
Right.
No, we were talking about this yesterday, as a matter of fact. My dad passed away a couple years ago, but my parents had been married for 52 years. And so...
Are you trying to say John's dad's going to die?
Not every... I hate to break it to you, he will eventually pass away.
Wait, is your dad's name Marijuana Brown? Because that'd be badass.
Or encyclopedia.
Well yeah.
But not everybody's working through childhood trauma who are creative people. Yeah. So then your stuff doesn't come from that, so it has to come from... Or is it... Do you make light of the fact that your family is so supportive?
Not really that much. I do talk about my dad quite a bit because he's a bit of a character.
He is a character.
He's accidentally drugged a comic once.
Yeah, John's one of the biggest Browns fans I know. He was actually at Bottlegate game. That was your first game, right?
Yes, that was my first Browns game.
But no relation to the billionaire family that owns the Bengals and the people who came from the Cleveland Browns.
No,
okay.
Not at all. West Virginia.
That would have been
hillbillies.
great. Oh, really?
Yeah.
West by God, Virginia.
Yeah, my mom's 100% Sicilian. My dad's 100% West Virginia hillbilly. So,
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like how that became a race.
Yeah.
And so how did they run into each
Take
other?
that, J.D.
then?
Vance. We got a real Appalachian here.
Yeah.
They went to high school together at Copley High School.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so they've been around for a long time. But I was actually born in Texas.
Yep.
They moved down there. Dad lost his job in the 80s, and then...
what did Dad do?
Factory worker
all
of his life, yeah. And then when I turned 13, we moved back to Ohio and started being able to go to Browns games.
Were you a kid that didn't like school? How do you decide you're like, were people laughing at you? How do you decide you're like, well, maybe I'll try to do this thing?
I mean, I think whenever I moved here in 8th grade, I was in 6th, 7th grade, like middle school, I was like class clown. And then whenever I moved here, I was the new kid. So that kind of accelerated that a little bit, I think, and had felt like I had to be funny.
Yeah, you had to be funny to like fit in and like try and make friends.
Yeah. And I always wanted to do comedy, but I didn't start. I started later. I started when I was 33.
How old are you now?
38.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, all right.
Yeah. So
why was that? I mean, I'm always interested in people who are like, I think of people who had square jobs like computer engineers or things like that, and I always attribute that to, well, that's a job where your brain has to work a little differently, and so you can see a transition to something creative. What were you doing before? When you were 33 years old, what was your...
Still am a factory worker.
Okay.
And basically I was on third shift, and I got moved to first shift. I had a buddy that started doing stand-up, and I always wanted to do it, and he talked me into it.
Is he still?
He is very off and on, very flaky guy, Brian Gallagher.
Oh,
and,
okay, yeah.
He did my artwork for my poster that I'm going to be selling tomorrow night, and he's actually doing a guest set on the show.
So how did you end up putting more into it than some other people? I mean, what was it for you? You were like...
I don't know. I just got addicted immediately.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, I remember the first time I went up at Funny Stop, it was like a sold out amateur night on July 3rd. And Brian asked me what I thought about it. And I was like, I think I want to do this the rest of my life. Like, I literally said that immediately. And and just kind of started doing 6-7 mics a week as soon as I started, pretty much. So,
How
how
you're
long?
a grinder, man. You're out there doing it.
How long had you been doing it before you told friends to come see you? Or I think about when I started. I started in '91. I was doing it for a good 2.5 years before I told any family members, girl I was dating, to come. I didn't want anybody there.
I screwed up and did that immediately.
Oh, you did immediately. I mean, I get that too. I mean, I get that too. But
yeah, and I had 5 of my high school buddies there the first night, and 4 of them haven't seen me since. And I think, and I think a couple of them are coming tomorrow. So
nice.
it'll be cool.
Good.
Yeah.
well, because you figure that on the one hand, people will give you a little bit of a lift.
Right.
Because they know if you're a funny guy or whatever, and they, but past that, once they've seen you, they've seen you.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's hard to get people to.
But then, after 5 years later, you're a much better comic than you were then. So
it's crazy because you think you're good then, and then and then
And
you
you
watch
go-
tapes
you're
from
like,
back then, and you're like,
whoa,
whoa,
that's what I thought killing was, or like
Right.
that was a good joke or a good set. Yeah,
yeah.
there's a lot of that.
And honestly, something that like might have delayed me a little bit was actually had to do with this show. Was I don't know if I've ever told you this, but my first live comedy show I ever went to go see, I think, was the 2011 Alan Cox Show comedy tour that Bill was on, and Jim Tews and Mike Polk Jr.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me think like, oh, the local comics are really good. It kind of was like, I don't know.
Those guys are good. There's a lot of bad local comics. But
right.
Those guys
but I
are
didn't
good.
know that because that's all I saw of the local comedy scene. So,
But now you know better.
right, exactly.
Your first exposure was to the cream of the crop, and then you're like, oh, there's plenty of other. Yeah, but to some people, they go, if you see people at a certain level, there's people who think, well, I can't do that. But then when you run into other people, you're like, oh, I can absolutely do that.
Yeah, then
of course
you
I can.
gotta-
I'm funnier than them. I mean, all you need is a couple of people at the beginning to think you're funnier than, and you go, I can surf this for a little bit.
Yeah, when people
Get
tell
right
me
back.
they're like, "Oh, you're the reason I started doing stand up." Like I've had a few people say that to me, and I'm like, "Wait, why? Like, is it because you thought?"
And when did you see me?
They're
How long have you been
they're
doing
like,
it?
They're like, "Oh, if Bill can do it, then I can." They're like,
Yeah, I went to a couple amateur nights before I went up for the first time, and I was like, I can do better than this. Like that was.
What was your first interaction with Pete? Pete's the owner of the Funny Stop that passed away last year.
Yeah.
And he's like a legend in the comedy scene just because he's such a vocal and kind of abrasive, but also like teddy bear type guy.
Actually, this is crazy. I met Pete 7 years before I started comedy in the sauna at the natatorium.
That's so weird. That's so funny.
Yeah. And he tried to talk me into doing comedy, and I
In the sauna?
Yeah.
That's usually not the proposition you get in the sauna at the natatorium.
Hot and sweaty. You should do comedy.
You look
Yeah.
funny. Do jokes.
No, but
comedy
Pete,
night.
yeah, Pete pretty much loved me immediately because he saw that I was like grinding immediately.
Yeah.
And
you hang out at his club a lot, which is like his favorite thing.
yeah,
ever.
I live 5 minutes away from the club,
Yeah.
so he was kind of like a second father to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
He's a great dude. I miss him a lot.
Yeah, it's bittersweet like headlining now because I thought he was going to be there for it, but it's still pretty awesome.
But at least he
and-
won't heckle you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And my first
John Brown, you gay.
my first crazy interaction with him was my first amateur contest when it was me and Carter Doherty, and we both had really good sets. We got first and second, but Pete looked at me and he's like, he brought more people. I'm like, all right.
Put asses in seats.
It was always easy to figure out what Pete wanted.
Correct.
Well, you're headlining the Funny Stop tomorrow night, so you got to put asses in seats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I have gotten a lot bigger response than I thought I would have. And it's like, I think I made it known that it was a big deal to me because, you know, I post shows all the time.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And whatnot. But yeah, it's, I picked the lineup myself. Gabe Gary, our buddy, is flying in from New York to feature for me. Samantha Archol, another great local comic, is opening. And then my good friend Brian Gallagher that got me started in comedy is going to do a guest set, and he made the artwork that I'm going to have there. So it'll be a great show.
It'll be a fun lineup.
Yeah. And best way to get tickets, honestly, the Funny Stop website's a little weird. So, but if you go to my Instagram, I'm at John Brown Comedy. In the bio, there's a direct link to the page where you can buy my tickets on, or you can call the Funny Stop too. That's
330-923-4700.
There you go.
Burned into your brain.
Is that it? Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Hold that thought. I got to give away some money here. $1,000 right here, courtesy of the Buzzard Bookie. Listen closely. It's your second to last chance to win today, and good luck.
This is your chance to bet with the Buzzard Bookie and win $1,000 now. Enter this nationwide keyword at WMMS.com. Check. That's check. Enter it now at WMMS.com.
All right, so I'm on the Funny Stops website, and there you are. People can buy tickets right there.
Yeah.
funnystop.com. I think
That's right.
I Googled it, and there it is, yeah. And so 5 years you're in, you said,
Yes.
yeah? And then what is the idea you have in your head of how you would like things to go? You have kids? Are you a married guy?
I don't. I'm single. I would like to have a girlfriend so I can get a dog. But I don't.
Get a dog, you know.
Yeah, I'm too busy to take care of a dog, so I need a
girlfriend who take care of the dog.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I kind of want to move to New York, but I don't know if I want to fully move or if I want to do like a hybrid thing, which I could do because I own a house here. But yeah, I mean, it's
Mary, your thoughts on New York?
I hate it here. I'm so vocal about how hard it is to live here. Living here is the hardest thing I've ever done, and I stayed sober during COVID after my dad died.
Yeah, right.
But don't let that deter you.
Just to put it in perspective.
It's literally every day's a nightmare, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of friends there now, but it's
there's been kind of I mean, Mary went there. Our buddy Joe Briggs is out there. Gabe Gary moved out there.
Well, it's a lot easier when it's just you. You know, some guys are like, "Oh, I got 2 kids." You can't be hauling your family to,
or like a dog and a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the past year for me has been crazy. Like I had 3 goals, and that was to win Best of Fest at both of the local comedy festivals, and I did that, and to become a regular at Hilarities, and I did that. And now headlining Funny Stop. So it's like I've been accomplishing the things I want to accomplish. So it's like me figuring out what the next step is from here. That's
the hard part is when you hit the things you want to do, and then you go, all right, well, what's the next thing then?
Right.
Yeah, it's been cool to see you get better and like super consistent and stuff too. Because you know when you started, you were funny, but there would be like nights where it'd be like you wouldn't have it all the way. But over the past 3-4 years, you're always one of the guys that go, oh, I know. When John's up, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I feel like if I do bad now, it's usually the audience's fault.
That's exactly. That's
always blame it on
now. He gets it. Now he gets it. You're ready for New York.
Who were the guys that you came up looking at and going, I like the way they do what they do?
I would say like Mark Norman, Sam Morrell, and I don't know. I'm not really like those guys though.
Right.
I would say.
I would look like them.
I would say I'm more of like in between a storyteller and a joke joke guy.
Yeah.
But
the way those guys put their stuff together was something that clicked with you.
Pete Holmes, Gary Goldman.
Yeah.
Like those are like the range of guys I think that I watched coming up.
All whites.
All men, no women.
I mean, now I would say the people like I watch the most is probably Jordan Jensen and Sam Talent. Like those are my 2 people right now that I love watching.
Sam's so
and
good.
Yeah, it's
Jordan was just doing. I saw her at Hilarities, but I also saw her open for Segura.
Yeah,
she got it.
I mean, when I was coming up, Bill, for me it was all about Miss Pat. So I mean, that was the person I paid attention to.
I didn't
most.
even. first of all, she didn't even do comedy yet. But so I was featuring for Patrice O'Neill, and Miss Pat was the host that night, like that weekend. So that was like a crazy show because she had just started. She'd been doing it like maybe a year. And it was at the Improv.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
so that's a crazy lineup.
Yeah, it was.
She started when she was like 35 too, I think. Miss Pat,
maybe even older.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this was probably 2007 or 8, probably 2008, and she was pretty new.
Oh, that's who I forgot. You told me the starting age. Jessica Kierson was a big inspiration to me.
Great.
Oh, she's
and
awesome.
she started when she was 33 too.
Yeah.
So and she responded to a tweet one time and kind of talked to me about it. So it was pretty cool.
In what sense? Like just starting once you're north of, everybody else starting when they're 21.
Right. Yeah. She just said something like, it's never too late to start out. She's like, you just have to grind harder than everybody else, and I've tried to do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So what will be? Let's say you pack out the Funny Stop tomorrow night. Obviously, that's what you want.
Yeah.
I think it's already getting.
Is it close to being sold out?
Pretty close.
Yeah.
And so then that's something that will become a regular thing for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, if I sell it out, I'm demanding a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
That's
They'll
that's
demand
something
a
that,
weekend. They'll be like, all right, we got to bring John back soon.
Yeah, that's something that it's my home club. It's the club I started at. I would love to do it every year. I mean, love to get in the rotation there.
Do you end up doing a bunch of social media stuff, or is it just mostly stage stuff at this point?
Yeah, I'm getting more into that. So I just started a podcast with our buddy you guys have talked about a lot, Jimmy Killius, and so we're getting clips for that and starting to put that stuff out. So I want to build up a lot of clips before I start posting regularly. But yeah, it's something.
You're also
that
on the road and stuff doing.
Yeah, been on the road a lot.
Oh, you're doing a lot of that?
Yeah.
Traveling? Okay.
He's in that, that early phase. Mary can remember this, where you get a hotel, but you'd rather just pay for another hotel.
Yes, I did that this past weekend.
And then what happened when you went in?
Oh yeah, so I stayed at a Marriott, and I get to my room, and there's a girl watching TV on the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't.
What you want?
Yeah.
And then the music starts in the background.
Were you like, can we get a dog?
No, it was the most. It was the most awkward thing in the world. I don't even think I said anything. I just backed out of the room and then walked downstairs, and they were like, "Oh, our computer's messed up," and we thought the room was empty, and then they let me raid the lobby store. So,
Did she jump up, freaked out, and
yeah.
Right.
And I had no idea what I was supposed to say.
Yeah,
but it was.
I mean, you got a key. Like you're like,
Yeah.
I thought this was my room. So
Yeah.
You think she would have had that latch done?
I always do.
Yeah,
because-
of course.
You gotta do the latch. You gotta,
Because I don't know, Marriott's recently, that's where I stay the most because I have one of their credit cards, but they've recently stopped putting out do not disturb signs.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of places now. They don't have the door hangers anymore.
Yeah, so I just latch it.
Yeah.
What was I? I just stayed in like a boutique hotel in Spokane, and they had a light. You could, like, it was like a doorbell for your room, but you could turn it to green, or like green if you wanted service, or red if you wanted them
Like
to
a public
leave you alone.
toilet.
Yeah, dude, it was
Occupado or
great. I loved it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Didn't you see my light was red, madam?
Yes, it's a red light.
Red light district down there on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, when I see American Budget Inn, I'm
Yeah.
getting a different hotel room. That's,
I bet they have door hangers and latches. John Brown is headlining for the first time ever tomorrow night at the Funny Stop in Cuyahoga Falls, his home club. He lives so close he could hitchhike to the club. Probably won't. He'll probably drive. You can go to funnystop.com and buy the tickets. Or what phone number could they call, Bill?
330-923-4700.
What did you say? John Brown Comedy on social media?
at John Brown Comedy on everything.
What's the name of the podcast?
Bomb Hard. So, yeah, it's it's Bomb Hard Productions on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah. Well, good to meet you. Thanks for coming
Great meeting you.
Yeah. All right, we're going to take a break. You want to get a text in for something? 35192. I will have Rise Against tickets for you. Want to go see Rise Against? They are back in Cleveland, and they are set to play the Agora in a couple of weeks, October 20th, and we'll do those coming back.
The Alan Cox Show on 100.7 WMMS and everywhere you go on our